My girlfriend lied about her pregnancy to keep me around, so I let her believe it until I quietly ruined every part of her fake story. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and I thought I had finally found someone who truly loved me. When I met Lena, my world was falling apart. My dad had just passed away unexpectedly, a heart attack in his sleep, and I was drowning in this strange mix of grief and numbness. Everything felt pointless. I stopped going out, stopped calling friends, and just went through the motions. Then she appeared warm, attentive, and almost too understanding. We met through a mutual friend at a small get-together. I almost skipped. She laughed at my dry humor, listened when I talked about my dad, and told me, "You don't have to be strong all the time. It's okay to let someone else carry the weight for a bit." That line stuck with me. It was the first time in months that I felt seen. Lena made healing feel effortless. She'd show up at my apartment with coffee, text me good morning before work, send songs she said reminded her of me. She had this way of making me believe I mattered again. Within weeks, she was introducing me to her friends, calling me her future, her safe place. And after losing my dad, I wanted to believe in something safe again. But even early on, there were moments that didn't sit right. She'd talk about baby names while we were still learning each other's favorite movies. She joked about me proposing soon in front of others, like we'd already agreed on a future I hadn't even had time to imagine. I remember thinking, it was just her way of being affectionate, passionate, romantic, spontaneous. I told myself, don't overthink it. She's just excited. If only I'd known then that what I thought was love was really the first sign of control. In the beginning, it felt flattering how much attention Lena gave me, how deeply involved she wanted to be in my life. But slowly, that attention started feeling more like surveillance. It started with little things. She'd grab my phone as a joke and scrolled through my texts. At first, I laughed it off, but then she began asking questions about names she didn't recognize. If I got a message from a coworker, even male, she'd ask, "Why didn't you tell me you were talking to them?" It was subtle at first, always wrapped in concern. "I just want to know everything about you," she insisted. "We share locations on our phones. It's just for safety," she said, "in case something ever happens to you." I agreed, not thinking much of it. But one evening, I stopped at a gas station on the way home, and by the time I pulled into my apartment, I had 6 missed calls and a text that said, "Why did you go out of the way? Who lives near that intersection?" That was the first time I felt like I was being watched. Then came the slow erosion of my other relationships. She didn't like my best friend Kyle's, said he was immature and disrespectful to women, which was completely untrue. She claimed my mom never gave her a fair chance. She'd say things like, "Your friends don't support our relationship," or "Your family never asks how I'm doing." Over time, I found myself making excuses, skipping guys' nights, ignoring calls from my sister. Lena always made it seem like we were the world, just the two of us against everyone else. And I wanted to protect that bubble. But deep down, I started to feel smaller, like I had to shrink myself to keep her love. I just wasn't ready to admit it yet. It happened on an ordinary night, takeout containers on the table, Netflix humming in the background, and that quiet comfort that comes when you've convinced yourself things are fine. We'd argued earlier that day about something small. I'd forgotten to text her during my lunch break. It wasn't the first time she'd accused me of drifting away, but that night she came over softer, apologetic, saying she didn't want to fight anymore. Then, as I was cleaning up, she took my hand, eyes glassy and trembling. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. My heart sank. She paused, just long enough for panic to set in before saying, "I'm pregnant." For a second, everything froze. My brain couldn't even process it. Pregnant? We'd been careful, religiously careful. My first instinct wasn't excitement. It was confusion. "Wait, what? How are you sure?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She nodded, crying harder now, saying she took multiple tests. She wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "Maybe this is a sign. Maybe your dad's watching over us." That line gutted me. Using my dad, the person I missed most in that moment, made me feel both vulnerable and guilty. I told her I'd be there for her, that we'd figure things out together. But in the following days, something didn't add up. She avoided any mention of doctor appointments, brushed off my offer to come with her, and seemed strangely casual about it all. When I asked how far along she was, she hesitated, said she didn't remember exactly. Still, every time I voiced concern, she'd tear up and say, "You don't trust me, do you?" And I'd cave every single time. But that night, as she fell asleep beside me, my gut wouldn't stop screaming that something was off. Something wasn't right, and I just couldn't prove it. At first, I told myself I was just being paranoid, that I was overthinking, that maybe I was one of those guys who freaks out when faced with real commitment. But the feeling didn't go away. Lena kept dodging details like it was second nature. Whenever I asked about her first doctor's visit, she'd wave it off. It was just a checkup, nothing to worry about. When I offered to drive her to the next one, she'd say she already went, or the appointment got rescheduled, or she didn't feel well enough to go. One afternoon, I gently asked if I could see one of the test results. Her smile faltered for a split second, just long enough for me to notice. "Why would you even ask me that?" she snapped. "You think I'd lie about something like this?" I tried to backtrack, but the moment had already shifted. She became distant, cold. For days, she barely looked at me. She moved around the apartment like a ghost, sighing heavily, slamming doors, just softly enough to not be outright aggressive, but loud enough to guilt me. Then came the mood swings, crying fits over spilled tea, yelling at me because I didn't compliment her dress. One night, she locked herself in the bathroom for an hour and came out acting like nothing happened. The final straw, though, was at the pharmacy. To pick up a prescription, and on impulse, asked the pharmacist if any prenatal medications had been filled under Lena's name. Recently she'd mentioned a few by name. The pharmacist checked and shook his head. "Nothing here under that name." My stomach dropped. My mind screamed. But I said nothing. Not yet, because now I needed to be sure. After that pharmacy visit, I knew I couldn't afford to keep ignoring my gut. Something was off, deeply off, and I needed more than a gut feeling. So I stopped asking questions and started watching. I began keeping quiet tabs on everything. I checked the bathroom trash every morning for signs of used test strips, prenatal vitamin wrappers, appointment cards, anything that would back up her story. Nothing, just makeup wipes and empty tissue boxes. She claimed she was exhausted from the pregnancy, but I noticed her ordering sushi, drinking her favorite iced lattes, loaded with caffeine, even sipping wine during a dinner with her friend. I asked gently, "Are you sure that's okay while pregnant?" And she brushed it off. "One glass won't kill anyone. Don't be dramatic." I started taking photos of empty pill bottles, of receipts that didn't match her story. I even began recording voice memos of her excuses, in case I needed them later. Paranoid, maybe. But when you feel like the truth is slipping through your hands, you cling to whatever you can. Then I did something I never imagined I'd do. I logged into her laptop while she was showering, just to check her calendar. Not a single doctor's appointment. But I did find multiple tabs open about how long a fake pregnancy can be maintained, and forums with titles like "Help, I lied about being pregnant to keep my boyfriend." My blood ran cold. I didn't know whether to cry or scream, but I did neither. I closed the laptop, walked out of the apartment, and sat in my car for almost 2 hours, gripping the steering wheel, trying to calm my racing thoughts. I knew now. I knew, but what came next had to be done quietly, carefully, because I wasn't just going to walk away, was going to make her story fall apart piece by piece. I thought I had time to plan, to document, to find the right moment to confront her privately. But Lena, she made the first move on. She made it loud. I woke up one morning to my phone blowing up with notifications. Texts, DMs, missed calls. At first, I thought something had happened. But no, it was her post. A glossy, staged photo of her holding a clearly fake ultrasound in front of her stomach, with the caption, "We're expecting. Our little miracle is on the way." And she tagged me. My heart stopped. My face flushed hot with panic and rage. Family members were commenting, "Congratulations." Co-workers were texting me smiley emojis. Even my manager at work sent me an email saying, "You didn't mention you were becoming a dad. Congrats." I stared at the post, frozen. I hadn't even processed the lie in private, and now she'd broadcasted it to the entire world that evening. She acted like nothing was unusual. She wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "Everyone's so excited. This is really happening." I played along. I smiled, nodded, kissed her forehead, because if I exploded now, in the middle of her fantasy, she'd just spin it. Make me look like the monster. I needed everyone else to see the lie unfold on its own. 2 days later, she hosted a gender reveal party. I didn't even know that was part of the plan. She invited her family, mine, friends, coworkers, all based on a pregnancy that didn't exist. I stood there holding a smoke cannon filled with pink dust, pretending I believed. The applause, the cheers, the happy tears from her mom, every sound scraped against my brain like glass. But deep down, I wasn't angry anymore. I was calculating. After that circus of a gender reveal, something inside me shifted. I stopped feeling shocked or betrayed. I started feeling focused. Her lie had gone too far to contain, and I realized I didn't have to expose her. All I had to do was let her keep talking. The first step was detachment. I began slowly pulling myself out of the story she built. I canceled the joint credit card we opened for baby expenses. I told the bank we'd lost the card and needed a new one mailed to only my address. I removed her from my health insurance plan. She noticed little things. Why did the baby fund app say the account was closed? I shrugged. Must be a bug. I changed the passwords to my email and cloud backups. I made copies of every text she sent, referring to doctor appointments, ultrasound details, baby name ideas. I kept building a timeline. I even downloaded her social media posts in case she tried to delete them later. One afternoon, I stopped by my buddy Kyle's house, the same friend she tried to isolate me from. I told him everything, showed him the laptop photos, the pharmacy info, even the forum screenshots. He didn't say anything for a while, then he just muttered, "Bro, she's sick. But you're playing chess." And I started keeping important stuff, passport, birth certificate, old photos of my dad Kyle's place. Lena thought I was decluttering to make room for the baby at night. She'd curl up next to me and say things like, "I can't wait to see you hold our daughter." And I'd whisper back, "Me too." Every lie she told became a noose. She was unknowingly tightening, and I was almost ready to let the floor drop. The moment that broke me didn't come with screaming or betrayal. It came with silence, someone else's silence. It was a Thursday afternoon when I got a message from an unknown number. Just one sentence. "Hey, I think your girlfriend did the same thing to my brother." My hands went cold. I called the number instantly. A woman answered. Her voice was flat, tired. She told me Lena had pulled this exact stunt 2 years ago, same fake pregnancy, same emotional manipulation, even the same staged ultrasound. Her brother had been engaged to Lena. He'd found out the truth too late after he'd already proposed, signed a lease with her, and cut ties with his own parents, who warned him something was off. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, barely breathing. I asked, "Did she ever admit it?" She replied eventually, but only after she ruined him. He moved across the country to get away from her. When I hung up, I stared at my reflection in the dark computer screen. I didn't recognize myself. I thought about my dad, how he used to say, "Real love should feel like peace, not panic." I thought about the version of me that had walked into that relationship, raw, just looking for someone to hold on to, and now I was here living in a lie, surrounded by people who believed a fantasy, dragging my own family into a nightmare I hadn't created but had let grow. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed while Lena snored softly beside me, her hand resting on her fake baby bump like she believed it was real. I realized something cruel but clear. But now, I was ready to bury the story itself. I waited for the perfect moment, quiet, controlled, and away from anyone she could manipulate. It was a Sunday morning. Lena was making pancakes in the kitchen, humming to herself, acting like she hadn't built our lives on a bed of lies. I sat at the table, watching her, and said calmly, "We need to talk." She smiled. "About what, Daddy Tubi?" I reached into my backpack and pulled out a thin folder. Inside were printed screenshots, her internet searches, the blank pharmacy records, the messages from her ex's sister. I slid it across the table toward her without a word. She frowned, flipped through the first few pages, and I saw the moment her expression cracked. Just for a second. Then came the performance. "Are you serious right now?" she hissed. "You went through my stuff? You're spying on me now?" "After everything?" I didn't flinch. "You're not pregnant, Lena. You never were. And I think you know exactly how this ends." She went pale. Tears formed in her eyes, but they felt rehearsed. "I just wanted to keep you. I was scared you'd leave me like everyone else." I stood up slowly. "I'm not going to yell." I'm not going to post about you. I'm not even going to tell your friends. I'm just done." Her voice dropped into a whisper. "Please don't leave me." But I was already walking to the door. I paused before opening it and said quietly, "You lied about a child. That's not love. That's control." I left her standing there, clutching the folder like it was evidence of a dream she could still salvage. But I was done saving her lies now. I was going to let her destroy herself with nothing but the truth. Asterisk, I didn't go nuclear. I didn't rage post or scream for justice. That's what she would have done, turn it into a spectacle. Twist the narrative until I looked like the villain instead. I made silence my weapon. That same night, I compiled everything. Screenshots, photos, recordings, even a timeline of all her lies. I dropped it all into a secure cloud folder and wrote a short, factual note. This is the truth in her own words and actions. Make your own conclusions. Then I sent it to 10 people. Her parents, her sister, my mom, our mutual friends. No commentary, no dramatic captions. Just the truth, delivered like a cold file in a courtroom. I blocked Lena on everything. No explanation. I moved out of our apartment 2 days later while she was at work. The lease was in my name. I paid the penalty, cleared the place out, and left her nothing but a key that no longer worked. For a while, it was quiet. To quiet, then I started hearing the fallout. Her mom reached out to mine heartbroken, said she had no idea what Lena had been doing. Her sister posted a cryptic Instagram story about being tired of covering for toxic people. Friends unfollowed her. Her comments dried up. And Lena. She tried to call me from a new number. I didn't pick up. Then came the email. "You ruined my life. Are you happy now?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She had built an entire fantasy and invited the world into it. I just turned the lights on and let everyone see the set pieces fall apart. Sometimes, the loudest revenge is saying nothing at all and letting the truth echo louder than any lie ever could. Weeks passed, then months, and with each one, I felt like I was peeling off another layer of someone else's skin until I could finally feel like me again. Lana tried a few more times to get through. Burn her numbers, throw away emails, even a handwritten letter dropped at my mom's house. I didn't open it. Didn't need to. The act of showing up there, that told me everything I needed to know. People stopped asking questions once the truth settled. Her reputation, her carefully curated image, it all began to crumble under its own weight. No one wants to be associated with a lie that big, especially when you lie about something as sacred and life-altering as pregnancy. I heard from a mutual friend that she quit her job, that she told people she had a mental breakdown and needed time off to heal from a trauma. Ironic, really, how she became the victim in her own story. But I wasn't bitter. Honestly, I felt relief, the kind that comes in quiet moments. Making coffee without looking over my shoulder. Sleeping without emotional landmines going off in the middle of the night. Laughing with friends I hadn't seen in months. Rebuilding bridges she'd quietly set on fire. Kyle said something during one of our late-night hangouts that stuck with me. She tried to script your life. Man, you took the pen back. And yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. She no longer had access to the story. And without an audience, her lies had nowhere to live. Now, when I think of her, it's not with hate or anger. It's with a strange kind of clarity. Like a movie you walked out of halfway through. Because you finally realized you didn't want to see how it ended. I used to think closure meant getting an apology, some teary confession, a moment where the person who hurt you finally admits it and begs for forgiveness. But with Lena, and strangely, I don't need it anymore. These days, my life is calm in a way that almost feels unfamiliar. I wake up without anxiety, gnawing at my chest. I go entire days without checking my phone for drama. I've reconnected with my sister, started spending weekends with my mom again, and even picked up photography, something I abandoned during the mess. And yeah, I'm seeing someone slowly, carefully. We're not rushing it. She doesn't love bomb me or pressure me into promises. She listens. She asks questions. And when I told her the full story, she didn't flinch. Just reached across the table and said, that wasn't love. That was control. She gets it. Sometimes I catch myself bracing for chaos. A delayed text, a changed plan, and my body tenses like it used to with Lena, but then I breathe and I remind myself I'm not in that prison anymore. I walked out. People still bring up Lena now and then. Her name pops up in old group chats or stories. I don't join in. I don't bash her. I don't defend her. I just let it pass. Because the truth is, her punishment was never mine to deliver. It was never about revenge. Her punishment was watching her own lies collapse. It was losing access to my loyalty, my silence, my support. She used fiction to trap me. I used reality to free myself, and now I live quietly. Not because I'm hiding, but because peace doesn't need an audience.